Hey there guys, and welcome to another Factorio video. I'm Xterminator, and thank you for joining me. And today we're doing another type of kind of content video, not actual gameplay. This was just kind of a quick, interesting one I came up with that I thought would be interesting. Hopefully you guys will too. So what we're going to go over today is the current Factorio roadmap, and then kind of my thoughts on it, and then also some additions I would personally like to be added to the roadmap, either before 1.0 or shortly thereafter. Most of them being quality of life type of stuff. And of course, I would like to hear your thoughts down below in the comments for any of your additions and thoughts as well. So currently, we're on this content page. This is all the current content. We pretty much know what all this is what's currently in the game. If you play the game, you know what all this is basically. So work in progress. 1.0, if you did not know, is planned for September 25th of this year. So actually not that far away. Maybe, what is that? May, June, July, August, like 5 or 6 months away. If I can't count, but something in there. So as they say, though, that doesn't mean the game development will stop. Rather, it is a point when we will consider the game complete. Anything else will be a bonus. So following this is an example of things, not everything we plan to do before 1.0. Currently, the only thing on this list is polishing. So basically just polishing what's already there, maybe little tiny additional features and stuff like that. They've added like, some new graphics. It's obviously still polishing, new animations. We also have possible future content, which we'll loop back here to in a second. Now, if we go to a more detailed roadmap, here is what's planned in 0.18, which is the version, the current version. So planned. Rest of the major GUI rewrites, character GUI, which I think is mostly done at this point, blueprint library, which is a big thing. I almost kind of remember them saying they put that aside for now and maybe scrapped it. I'm not sure, I could be wrong. More high-res entities redesigns. They're actually almost done with this, I believe. New high-res icons, more modding scripting features, which they're adding in almost every single 0.18 subversion. More map editor features, mini tutorials would be really nice. I don't know, since they added the first steps thing, if that kind of is what this was or eliminates this, or if this is more just like in-game interactive tutorials. I'm not sure. Final GUI improvements, finishing the rest of the GUIs in the game, of course. Final game balancing, which they have been doing a bit of, and stuff like a little bit of tweaks with the poison capsules and stuff like that. I'm sure there's going to be more to come. High resolution sprites for the rest of the game, including a few redesigned entities, which is really cool. They did mention they're redesigning the assembler machine, which is huge. I think that's personally like the most outdated, worst graphic in the game. The graphic itself, I don't think is personally bad, but compared to all the updated ones, it's definitely the one that stands out as being like the oldest and least attractive in my opinion. So I'm glad they're reworking it. I really look forward to seeing what they have coming out for that. Beacons, they already kind of talked about that. Final graphical tweaks kind of falls into this, and better sound design, which they have been working on throughout the versions. And then this is stuff they've already done, which is actually quite a lot. Steam login, water, tree animations, color correction, main menu redesign, optimizations, particle system, explosion, damage effects, starting work on the sound design. So this is what's currently on the list. I think this is really good stuff. Pretty much all falls under polishing. So hopefully this part of the video you found helpful if you haven't checked out the roadmap and were wondering what they got planned. This is what they currently have planned. This is what they've completed in 0.18. And all this is, like I said, in their plan to be released by September 25th. They may remove some stuff from here if they can't get it done in time. May add some stuff if they have extra time, which is doubtful, just from what I have seen with how programming works. I'm not a programmer, but I know that it usually gets extended. So there's that. Now, in terms of what I would personally like to be added, some of this stuff I know they won't add, but I'm just going to say it anyway. And some of it they may want to add, but it's a bit too complicated to get done before 1.0. So right now on my list, there's a few things. The first one being actually kind of ties into the latest mod spotlight I did, which is called Blueprints Edit, or Edit Blueprints rather, by who actually one of the developers made it. And it allows much more in-depth blueprint editing. It allows you to go in and actually add new items to a blueprint. It allows you to change settings within combinators and inserters. circuit network settings in a blueprint and save it, which currently in vanilla is not something you can do. You cannot actually add new items to a blueprint or mess with any settings like item settings within it. And I think that is huge. I would love this to be in game. This is actually probably my number one thing I would love them to be able to add into the base game, especially before 1.0. I think something like this is actually, in my opinion, considered polish. The blueprint system, just as a principle, is fantastic to have a blueprint system, but I think it is really lacking in in lacking its ability to be able to do this. Also, maybe rotation and stuff would be good. I know that's difficult to do. I feel like it wouldn't be insanely difficult to add in just being able to add items and mess with settings, seeing as one of the devs just did a mod on it. And obviously, if they want it in the base game, they want it a little more complete and fleshed out than the mod, but the groundwork is there, at least from what I understand. So that's like my number one that I would like added. Some sound fixes and changes. Now, I know sound is on here. What I'm actually referring to is changing things that they just recently did. In my opinion, and I think from what I've read, a lot of other people are of the same opinion, that the new sounds for a lot of stuff, at least to me, are very unappealing. I am not a fan of them. I'm not a fan of the new sounds for shooting. I'm not a fan of some of the factory sounds, stuff like that. I think it's just very off-putting to me. Maybe it's just because I'm not used to it. I've been playing with the other sounds for years and years, so maybe I'm just not used to it. It just sounds like, especially the shooting, I noticed when I just did my 0.18 features update video a couple days ago. I noticed it was just really weird. It almost sounded like super fake to me, like some sort of plastic toy or something. I don't know. Let me know what you think. If you had the same opinion, or maybe I'm just nuts. But that's the kind of stuff I think I actually would request them to revert or change some of the new sound stuff they've added. One other thing which has been a huge, huge request and complaint of mine, and maybe this is just something that I'm like the only one who actually would use this type of thing. But when you press for the picker in the game, when you press Q, while you're mousing over an item, it will either pull that up in your inventory if you have it, or it will give you a ghost of it. Now, a lot of times what I experience is I go to do that, and I actually don't end up having any in my inventory because I'm very unprepared, which is my own fault. But what I think would be a great feature is to be able to have, either just by pressing Q, maybe double pressing it, although that would actually technically turn it off. So maybe like Q plus some other key actually crafts like 5 or 10, a set amount of the item that you've queued. So, if I mouse over an inserter and hit Q, it normally right now will bring up a ghost if I don't have it in my inventory. What I would love is to be able to do I don't know, like Q Alt or something, and be able to have a thing automatically craft. Because right now what I have to do is hit Q, realize I don't have it, hit E to go in my inventory, click the thing to craft it, and then pull it out of my inventory, or hit Q again. And it's just kind of an extensive process, in my opinion. Again, maybe I'm the only one who would actually use this because my playstyle is just weird or something. But that is something I'd really like, is be able to just have it start crafting something you don't already have. Another one is, and I know the devs, I think, have talked about this and said it would be quite difficult to do. So I would definitely understand if this is just off the table. But giving priority to your personal RoboPorts over the main base RoboPorts, because so many times, in fact more times than not in my experience, if I'm in my base and something gets destroyed, or I place down a blueprint, I maybe want to just have my personal bots build it. Maybe it's just a couple small things and it could be done in 10 seconds. But instead, what ends up happening is that the base robots take priority and fly from halfway across the base, and it takes 25 seconds just for them to get to the location with a few items, and they got to go all the way back to pick more up. And I find that very annoying. When literally what I do is I'll just build it by hand at that point, because it's actually faster. So I would like the ability to either toggle that, or personally, I feel like, I don't know. I was going to say I feel as if your personal bot should just always take priority, but I know that may not be the case for a lot of people. I can see how there is an argument where if you're in the base, you want the base bots to do it. Personally, that's like almost never the case for me unless I just happen to not have robots on me. But then I think maybe that could just take priority. So for example, if you don't have robots on you, or you don't personally have the items in your inventory for your personal bots to do it, then it just reverts to the base bots doing it. But I would like it to have its first priority to always be your personal robots if you have any, and if you have the materials to build. Um, I think that would just be really, really nice. Another one, which is not super high on the list, it would be nice, but I don't think it's very high on their list at all, is some sort of assembly production analysis tool, like the analyst mod I spotlighted a couple weeks ago. I think having a vanilla built-in version of that to some sort would be really cool. Now, obviously, you have your production menu, but you can't see it on like a assembler by assembler basis or production area by production area basis. Um, I think something like that would be really cool, or even just being able to like select an area and pull up the production stats and have it only give you production stats in your production menu for that area you selected or something. Even something as simple, that may actually not be simple, but something like that would be perfectly fine for me, and I think a huge improvement. Next thing is, again, kind of in that same category of it would be cool, not necessary in my opinion, is Fluid Wagon / Cargo Wagon Colors. Again, this pulls from another mod spotlight I did, where you can color your wagons and fluid tankers just like you can locomotives, which I think is really cool. Not only is it cool, it allows you to kind of organize your factory maybe a little bit better, to just color your whole train a color of whatever's in it, or maybe if each wagon's carrying something different, color the wagon to that particular item. Now, I know the devs' argument and a lot of other people's arguments, which I completely understand, is if a mod does it well, there's no reason to add it to the game. And I would agree with this for a lot of things, but I think there are things where it is something that just should be in the base game that should not be required by a mod, or require a mod to have it happen. For example, the upgrade planner. That was a mod that Clonin, or maybe some other people as well throughout the years, made. And it was highly, highly requested, and they added it to the game because they realized that that's just something that should be in the game. What would fall under that category for me is the in-depth blueprint editing, and potentially having Q start like crafting stuff for you, and maybe the Roboport priority. Those are the type of things where I think that should just be in the base game. The assembler analysis and fluid wagon thing, a mod does it well. I think if they want to add it to the game, no one would complain. People would be happy, but I don't think it's something, there's already a mod that does it. They probably don't have to add it, type of deal. Another kind of just, throwing out their request is I would personally like more vehicles. Hint, hint, Spidertron. But even other vehicles. We only have a car and a tank. And I know the game isn't about driving and stuff. It is about exploration, and before you get a ton of exoskeletons, it can be kind of a pain to explore. I feel like some sort of thing with legs, and or something that can maybe hover or fly a little bit, would be really cool. Just some other type of vehicle would be really nice. And then let's see here. The last thing, which I know is not going to be a thing before 1.0, but maybe as an expansion afterwards, is I know it's a sandbox game, and I think it can still be a sandbox game even if this changes. But having a more solid late game. Personally, this is entirely, all of this is my personal opinion, okay? So, my personal opinion is not your opinion, it's not the dev's opinion, it's mine. In my opinion, I think that just launching the rocket is not a very good late game. Number one, because to me, it just doesn't really make sense. Like, you're launching a rocket with or without a satellite in it, but what's that doing? Like, there's no story there. Like, it's like the like mankind launching a rocket into space just absentmindedly for like no apparent reason, and just being like, oh, okay, we beat life. I mean, or if you landed on a planet, as the engineer did here, based on the little story we have, and you were able to build a rocket, and then you just launched it into space. then did nothing with it. Like that, to me, that's not really a great late game. That just doesn't really make sense. There's no completion aspect to that to me. In terms of base production and stuff, that can maybe, it's kind of completion. You launch a rocket. That was the main big objective out of all the items and research you can do. But I think a little stronger of a backstory as well as a stronger late game is something that would help the game a lot. Again, it can still be a sandbox game. It can always be a sandbox game as long as after the whatever the late game is, you still have the option to continue. When you launch a rocket, you have the option to finish and quit, or you can just continue playing past the rocket for however long you want. I think it can still be a complete sandbox game if you have that option to continue past whatever the end game is. Speaking of in-game, there's some stuff here. Space platforms. They've mentioned this before. I think this would be kind of cool. This isn't necessarily late game. Food industry maybe could be. Maybe after you launch the rocket, you're actually launching a little probe or help beacon or something back to whatever planet you came from, and maybe you're telling them it's safe to land, and more people will come, and then you need to start producing food and stuff, something like that. Moving underground, not necessarily late game. These are just actually really cool things. I'm actually glad they have them here, maybe in a DLC or expansion. I'm a fan of every single one of these. Alien interaction in some way, space platform definitely could be late game. Food industry could be having multiple surfaces on the planet, having some sort of RTS element. So that stuff is really cool. And I think that pretty much covers it. Those are my main things. I would say top 3. In-depth blueprint editing. Absolutely, in my opinion, needs to be in the game. Having other key combination of some sort. When you hit Q over something, you don't have the item, have it automatically craft 5 or even 1 would be fine, in my opinion. Something better than nothing. In my opinion, I think that needs to be in the game. Or maybe I'm just crazy and I'm the only one who actually needs that. And then giving priority to your personal RoboPort. I know, I think this should definitely be in the game, but I understand because I think I recall the devs talking about something like this, that would be very complicated and maybe performance intensive to do properly, which I can completely understand. That can get a little iffy there. So, if that's the case, obviously I don't want to give up a ton of performance just to have that little feature. But if not, I think that should most definitely be in the game. Other stuff would be nice. It is covered by mods. Obviously, I would love it if it were in the game. But there we go, guys. So if you hadn't seen the actual roadmap, here it is. They are currently basically working on all this. We've discussed it in the Friday Facts. That's my thoughts in terms of additional things I'd like. I would love to hear your thoughts down below. What do you think? Do you agree with anything I've said? Is there anything where... because I'm actually interested. If you think I'm just nuts, you're like, no, Xterm, you're the only one who's unprepared enough to need that Q crafting feature. Let me know, or whatever your other ideas are. I'm always interested in reading what you guys have to say. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed kind of a random video, but I thought it would be interesting to talk about, maybe help some people get a better plan of what's ahead in the game content. So there we go, guys. Thoughts below, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Please stay well. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you all. Bye-bye.